I'm going to start off today by giving you the introduction of it and maybe touching in certain areas of how it originated, perhaps the misconception, and maybe the shadow in projection, because that's something that comes out in our society a lot. So let's begin with the syndrome of being a good girl. So as a child, we're born a whole. We have both. And then we quickly learn how to navigate Darwin theory, the survival theory, and we learn what are the aspects that if we show, we will be accepted by culture, and if we show, we will be alienated. That part, for example, if you were a very opinionated little girl and you had a lot of witty things to say, but you were born in a very serious conservative family, you probably learned to repress that part and never even realized when you get older that you actually had that aspect in you, because every time that part showed up, maybe culture punished you by saying, don't talk so much, you should be quiet and agreeable and sweet, just like your other friends are. So then you learn that, okay, this part I cannot show, and then this part is the part that dominates. Now, most people go their entire life just using this part, which is the egoic part that keeps you safe. I don't know if everybody knows the entire definition of ego, but ego has a lot of different connotations. In this one, I'm not talking about narcissism or self-absorption. It's just the egoic part is also created by fear. That part is embodying limiting beliefs and allowing our own biases maintain the narrative in our brain. Now, how do you get in touch with the shadow part? This is not something easy to do, because in order for you to be conscious of your shadow, you have to first of all understand that you have a side that you are not bringing out to the picture. So this journey of working on your shadow is something that normally happens to a few people when they go through something incredibly hard in their life, perhaps a near-death experience, or where you face a huge amount of darkness, and instead of running away from the darkness, you actually sit with it and you face the darkness and you face your shadow. So you're probably wondering, how do I do that work? So that's something I'm going to definitely cover on another episode. But the benefit of you doing the shadow work is basically you start living in your full potential, because now you're not only using one side of yourself, but you're using your entire whole self. You're bringing it to the picture. And the only way to do this is to become conscious of what is in there that is hidden, and loving that part of you that was denied and told to be repressed by culture. So that's why doing your inner work makes you understand parts of yourself that were rejected by the people around you. But maybe you have a few superpowers that are just laying dormant. And another beautiful part of loving your shadow side is that when you love these parts that are hard, that once were hard for other people to accept, and even for you therefore to accept, you start accepting that on others. I'll give you a quick example. So you encounter a friend that is loud and likes to opinionate their mind in meetings. If you have that side in yourself as well, you will have it, but you haven't accepted, your first reaction to it will be to criticize it. will be to project your own insecurities into that person by saying, oh, I think that person is just too much. So now, unconsciously, that projection that you are putting on someone else, if you look deep inside yourself, you'll realize that you also have that. And it was told to you that that was too much, and therefore you suppress it. That's why you don't speak your mind, and you play this role of the good girl. So each time you actually criticize other people that are similar to you, for example, women were meant to not be an ally to another woman. And part of it is because a lot of women have not been doing their own shadow work. So they used a lot of that projection to someone who has done it. When you don't like something, one thing to keep in mind is every time you don't like something on someone else, stop and think, why don't you like that aspect on that person? And maybe that is the first sign that that exists in you. And that's why every time you are projecting on someone else, it has very little to do with that person, but it has everything to do with you. Now, this is actually something really cool, because if you know this and you really understand this in psychology, you will never ever take anything personally again, because when someone criticizes you and you have done your shadow work, you already learned to love every part of you. So nobody can use your shadow, for example, to trigger you. So this is a very complex topic, and it's not one that we can finish it in one YouTube video of 5 minutes of mine. So we're going to do it in a couple of parts.